Have you ever had one of your adult children suddenly stop calling, texting, or coming around for weeks, maybe even months? No warning, no explanation, just silence. One day you're sharing a coffee over the phone or exchanging stories about old family memories, and then they're gone, completely. You're left wondering what happened. Did I say something wrong? Did something happen in their life I don't know about? And just when you finally started adjusting to the quiet, a message pops up. Maybe it's a text, maybe a phone call, or even a casual visit. They say something like, "Hey, how are you? Thought I'd check in," as if nothing ever happened, as if the silence wasn't painful, as if the weeks or months you spent worrying, waiting, and hurting never occurred. If this has happened to you, I want you to know you're not alone. So many parents, especially in their 60s, 70s and beyond, go through this confusing emotional experience. And the truth is, when a grown child disappears and then reappears like everything's normal, it brings up a whirlwind of emotions: hurt, hope, anger, confusion, even guilt. That's why in this video, we're going to talk about how to handle it with wisdom, with strength, and most importantly, with self-respect. Because no matter how old your children are, your time, your heart, and your love are still valuable. You deserve clarity, not confusion, and you deserve relationships built on mutual respect, not one-sided effort. Let's begin with the first and most powerful thing you can do when your adult child comes back out of the blue like nothing ever happened. Ask for acknowledgement. Now, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean scolding them or demanding answers in a way that turns things into a fight. That rarely helps. But what it does mean is calmly and honestly naming what happened. Saying something like, "I noticed we hadn't spoken in a while, and I wasn't sure what was going on." That simple sentence, spoken without anger, can completely shift the tone of the conversation. Because here's the truth. If you don't ask for acknowledgement, you're silently giving permission for this kind of disappearing and returning behavior to continue. You're saying it's okay to treat me like an option. And you are not just an option. You are a parent. You are a person. You are someone whose presence should be valued, not taken for granted. When you gently bring up the absence, you're letting your adult child know, this relationship matters to me, and how we treat each other matters too. Now you might be thinking, but what if they get defensive? What if they shut down again? And yes, that's a possibility. Some adult children struggle to talk about feelings. They might avoid hard conversations because they feel guilty or ashamed, or simply because they've never been taught how to repair relationships. But your job isn't to protect them from discomfort. Your job is to protect your own peace. By asking for acknowledgement in a calm and grounded way, you're setting a respectful tone and giving them a chance to respond with maturity. What they do with that chance, that tells you a lot. And this leads us into the second strategy, the delayed response protocol. This one is especially helpful if you're still hurting from the disappearance, or if this has happened more than once. When your adult child suddenly reappears, it's natural to feel a wave of relief. That message or phone call might feel like water in a desert. But before you rush to reply, take a pause. Give yourself space to breathe. You don't need to reply right away, even if your heart is racing with hope. Why? Because when someone disappears from your life without explanation and then comes back on their timeline, they're essentially teaching you that their needs come first, that their silence is something you're expected to tolerate. And when we respond immediately, especially with enthusiasm, we unintentionally confirm that message. But when you pause, when you take time to consider how you want to respond instead of reacting from emotion, you shift the dynamic. You give yourself the space to decide, do I want to re-engage right now? Am I ready for this? And that pause communicates something powerful. I'm not just sitting around waiting for you. I have a life too. This doesn't mean ignoring them forever. It just means honoring your own emotional pace. Maybe you take a few hours, maybe a day, maybe even a few days, depending on how deeply the silence affected you. During that time, check in with yourself. Ask, what do I really want from this relationship? What am I ready for, and what am I not? And when you do respond, it can be something as simple and neutral as, "Hey, just saw your message, hope you're doing okay." That's it. You're not jumping back into deep emotional waters right away. You're letting them know you're there, but on your terms. Now, some parents tell me they feel guilty doing this, that it feels cold or distant. That it feels cold or distant. But here's the truth. You are not being cold. You are being careful, and that's okay. When someone has stepped away from your life without explanation, you have every right to protect your heart when they return. Giving yourself time and space to respond isn't about punishment. It's about emotional boundaries. It's about saying, "I matter too." Because far too often, especially in families, we're taught to always be available, to always pick up the phone, to always say yes. But constant availability doesn't build respect. It builds expectation. And right now, if your adult child is reappearing without acknowledging their absence, that's a moment to reset expectations. Not with anger, not with shame, but with strength. We're not here to control them, we're not here to guilt them, but we are here to say, "I welcome relationships that are mutual, respectful, and kind. I'm not interested in playing hide and seek with my peace of mind." As you begin to step into this new way of responding, with calmness, with thoughtfulness, with intention, you start to feel something shift. Maybe it's just a little at first, a little less tension in your shoulders, a little more confidence in your voice. But over time, these small moments of self-respect add up. They build strength, they build clarity, they build peace. And you deserve peace. You deserve connection that feels safe, honest, and real, not connection built on silence, confusion, and walking on eggshells. Sometimes, after you've given yourself that breathing room, maybe a few hours, maybe a day or two, you begin to see things more clearly. The initial wave of relief from hearing from your adult child fades just enough to let the questions rise. Why now? Why this way? And you start to feel that tug inside, the part of you that wants to protect the connection, but also protect your heart. And this is where a third approach comes in, what I call casual dismissal. Now, don't worry. This isn't about turning cold or being cruel. It's about matching the energy you're given. If your adult child reaches out after weeks or even months of silence, and they offer no explanation, no apology, no awareness at all, then it's okay to respond with warmth, but without enthusiasm. You don't have to leap back into deep conversations or act like you've been waiting by the phone. A simple, "nice to hear from you," or "hope everything's going well," is enough. It's polite, it's open, but it doesn't hand over your heart on a silver platter. It tells them, "I'm open to connection, but I'm not going to pretend the past didn't happen." Because here's what often happens when you give too much, too soon. They learn that disappearing has no cost, that they can check out of the relationship whenever they feel like it, and you'll still be standing there with open arms, no questions asked. And over time, that erodes your sense of dignity. It makes the relationship feel one-sided, and you deserve more than that. So instead, you match their tone. If they're casual, you can be casual too. If they're vague, you don't have to rush to fill in the blanks. This isn't about being petty. It's about protecting the investment of your love and your time and seeing if they're willing to invest something in return. You've spent a lifetime loving this person, feeding them, comforting them, cheering for them, worrying over them, and now they're an adult. And adult relationships go both ways. If they want access to your heart, to your time, to your energy, it's okay to expect effort. It's okay to expect respect. Some parents worry, if I act too casual, will they pull away again? And the answer is maybe. But if they do, that tells you something important. It means they were never reaching out for real relationship. They were just looking for convenience. And that's not the kind of connection you deserve. And that brings us to something that can feel a little uncomfortable for some folks. Direct confrontation. Now, I know those are strong words, and for many parents, especially those raised in generations where you didn't talk back, where you kept things polite no matter how much they hurt, the idea of confronting your child, especially your adult child, can feel like stepping into dangerous territory. But confrontation doesn't have to be a conflict. It can be clarity. It can be calm. It can be caring. Imagine saying something like, I was surprised not to hear from you for a while, and now that you've reached out again, I just want to understand what changed. Or even more directly, when you disappeared for those weeks without saying anything, I felt hurt. I value our relationship, and I need to know if something's wrong. Can we talk about it? If not, I still need us to treat each other with care. These are the kinds of sentences that open doors. They let your child know, I'm not here to scold you, I'm here to stay connected, but I need honesty, I need respect, I need consistency. And here's the truth. If your child gets angry just because you calmly bring up their silence, that tells you something, not about you, but about them, about where they are emotionally, about what kind of relationship they're ready or not ready for. And as hard as that may be to face, it's important to know, because many of us, especially later in life, are done playing games. We're done wondering where we stand. We want peace, honesty, and real connection, or nothing at all. And that's okay to want. That's healthy to want. So sometimes you have to be willing to speak the truth gently, even if it stirs the waters a bit, because it might be the only thing that leads to real healing or real understanding. Now, some parents listening might be thinking, that all sounds great, but I'm just tired. I don't want to explain or ask or wait. I just want peace. And that's when we get to the fifth strategy, one that's simple but powerful, no response at all. Yes, you are allowed to not respond. If your adult child has disappeared from your life, hurt you deeply, ignored your messages or calls, and now returns like nothing happened, and your gut says you're not ready, or not interested, or just done, you don't have to reply. Silence in these moments is not spiteful. It's a boundary, because not every door needs to swing open just because someone knocks, especially when that person walked out without looking back. Now, this doesn't mean cutting them off forever. It doesn't mean burning bridges. It simply means you're not ready right now. Or maybe you've realized that your peace matters more than keeping a connection that only drains you. And that silence, that absence of reaction, it often speaks louder than any text, call, or letter ever could. It tells your adult child, you can't disappear without consequence. You can't re-enter my life on your terms and expect me to drop everything for you. I love you, but I love myself too. And finally, there's one more approach I want to talk about, one that's more reflective, more inward, but just as important. And that is gathering information. Because sometimes, even in these moments of confusion or hurt, we're still open to understanding, still open to learning. Not just about them, but about ourselves, about what the situation is really showing us. So when your adult child reaches out and you choose to engage, maybe just a little, you can ask questions, not to interrogate, but to understand. Something gentle like, what made you think of me today? Or, I'm curious, when things get stressful, is disappearing your usual way of coping? These kinds of questions can open windows into their world, into their patterns, into their maturity or their struggles. And while it might not change what happened, it gives you insight. And that insight helps you decide what to do next, wisely, calmly, and without guilt. Because here's what I believe. Every moment with someone is a chance to gather information about who they are, about how they handle conflict, about whether they're growing or staying stuck, and most of all, about whether they're ready to share a healthy relationship with you. At some point in life, you realize it's not about having the perfect relationship. It's about having relationships that feel safe, honest, and mutual. And when it comes to our grown children, that can be one of the hardest truths to accept. Because deep down, we still see them as that little boy who used to run through the house laughing, or that young girl who once held your hand and never wanted to let go. But people grow. They change. And sometimes those changes include pulling away without explanation, only to return later, as if time stood still. What we've been talking about isn't about punishing your child for that. It's about protecting your peace, your dignity, and your emotional well-being. So whether you choose to speak openly, take your time before responding, or even stay silent altogether, you're allowed to make that decision without guilt. There's a truth I'd like you to hold on to. How your adult child treats you is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of where they are in their own journey and how capable they are or aren't of maintaining adult relationships with respect and reciprocity. And your response, that doesn't need to be about them. It can be about you. About what helps you sleep peacefully at night, what keeps your spirit calm, and what protects your heart from being pulled into a cycle of disappearing and reappearing love. Let's revisit the heart of this conversation for just a moment, not to repeat, but to reflect. When someone disappears and then returns like nothing happened, it creates confusion. It pokes at the softest parts of your heart, the parts that long for closeness, for reunion, for healing. And that's okay. That longing means you care. It means you're human. It doesn't make you weak. But acting from that longing without boundaries can lead to more pain. That's why these 6 responses matter. They're not rules, they're tools. And tools are there to protect, build, and restore. Asking for acknowledgement helps you bring honesty into the space. Delaying your response gives you time to check in with yourself before reacting from emotion. Matching their casual tone with casual dismissal shows that you're not waiting to be picked up and put down when it's convenient. Directly and gently addressing the behavior brings clarity and opens the door for accountability. Silence reminds both of you that access to your heart isn't automatic. It must be earned. And asking thoughtful questions allows you to gather the truth, not just about what happened, but about where things might be going. These aren't just reactions, they are choices. Mature, grounded, and deeply powerful choices. Now, let's pause for a moment and talk about something that often gets overlooked in conversations like this: grief. Because sometimes what you're really facing isn't just confusion or frustration, it's grief. The grief of losing the kind of relationship you hope to have. The grief of watching your adult child become someone distant, unpredictable, or even cold. The grief of realizing that love doesn't always look the way we imagined it. And that grief is real. You are allowed to feel it, but you're also allowed to set it down. You're allowed to say, I can love you from afar. I can hope the best for you without sacrificing the best of myself. I can keep the door cracked without keeping my soul wide open to disappointment over and over again. Boundaries don't mean bitterness, they mean wisdom. And here's something else worth remembering. Your life is still yours. Whether your child calls tomorrow or never calls again, You still have today. You still have laughter to share, people to love, books to read, meals to enjoy, mornings to savor. You still have meaning and joy and purpose. Some of the most fulfilled people I know are those who, after years of struggling to fix broken family dynamics, decided to shift their focus inward. They stopped chasing connection and started building their own peace. They learned that waiting for someone to return with the right words kept them stuck, so they let go, not of love, but of attachment to how that love had to look. And from that letting go, they found something unexpected: freedom. Freedom to feel good again, to stop rehearsing the past, to stop replaying every unanswered message or misunderstood conversation. To start living, not waiting. Now, maybe your story isn't that far along. Maybe your child is reaching out and there's real hope of rebuilding. That's beautiful. And if that's the case, let them show you who they are now. Let their actions, not just their presence, tell the story. Let them earn back trust, one honest word and consistent step at a time. You don't have to rush in. You don't have to prove your love. It's already proven by everything you've given. Your years, your effort, your sleepless nights, your prayers. This part of the journey, it's about balance. Loving while holding your ground. Being open without being wide open. Listening without losing yourself, and trusting that you are just as worthy of love, effort and presence as anyone else in your family. If something in this video spoke to you, if it reminded you of your story or gave you a new way to think about an old wound, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes the most healing words come from someone else who's been there. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel here at Years of Wisdom. We're all about helping you stay emotionally strong, mentally grounded, and spiritually full, especially in the relationships that matter most. This isn't just a place for tips, it's a place for truth, for growth, for compassion. We're building a community of people who've seen life from all angles and still choose peace, strength, and love on their terms. So here's what I'll leave you with today. No matter what your child does or doesn't do, your worth hasn't changed. No matter who disappears, your presence still matters. No matter what silence you've endured, your voice still deserves to be heard. And no matter how long it's been, today is still a good day to protect your peace. You are strong, you are wise, you are loved.